Anyone else just sick of companies? Like, I mean that in all seriousness, right? Like, like PlayStation in particular for the sake of this video, but I'm going to bring in a lot of different outside perspectives to kind of circle back. Like McDonald's, for example, the food is complete slop. And, I'm sure there's enough documentation and especially some files around that, definitely tell you probably shouldn't eat that. But back in the day, like that was cheap food. You got $1 cheeseburger, you got like a $2-3 Happy Meal or whatever, like even if you didn't get the toy, it was like a buy one, get one, total $2.50 or whatever. I don't know. I remember having some Xbox screen blades for it or savers. I hate how companies have forgotten their place, right? I had to tell my mom the other day, like, hey, these frozen pizzas I get, they're like cheaper than a #1 meal at McDonald's. She was like, really? I was like, yeah. Like 40 grams of protein, all clean ingredients, yada, 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 me. But then on top of that, you have things like my cat's like litter box thing. I thought it would just be like a gear that rotates a cylinder on a set timer. No, it needs Wi-Fi, a stupid app, and some freaking account. I hate that. I hate that with a passion. Like it's not that hard to make some of these things. I just don't have the time because, obviously, one, I'm not an engineer. Two, a lot of these materials cost so much money. And three, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm so sick and tired of these companies. And then all of a sudden, like, it breaks and then it's like, oh gosh, I got to get a new one or something, or stay on the phone for like 3 hours for customer service. Like, no, I'm sick and tired of this. And then everything needs a goddamn subscription, right? Like, back in the day, we used to have cable and you used to get a bunch of stuff, and that was kind of like the big subscription. You'd get like, like the news outlets, Fox, CNN, you'd get the cartoons, Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network, and that's fine. You'd get the kids shows, PBS, you get the idea. It used to just be all one thing. Now it's not. Now they're all separate and they're all trying to divulge into their own things, and I'm not here for that. I think it's disgusting that like at this point, what is the point? It's to nickel and dime you for everything you own, because these companies don't actually care about you at all. And it's very telling when, like I go to school for 3D animation and game design. I get out of college immediately. The only job that I could even try and get in my field treats you so poorly. I'm not even kidding. I got like receipts and stuff. That'll probably be another video. But, I just, it's bad. It's really bad. So Sony. Right? Well, in the past, like several weeks, they've gone from putting just the tip of their toe into their mouth to just completely, at this point, just jam the whole foot down your throat. First, it was like the GTA 6 thing, and then it's like, okay, like it's not going to be on the disc. It's going to be like a 200 gig game. Like, okay, fine. Like people were for that, I guess. Even though technology should have evolved enough to where you could put something that big on a freaking disc, but that's beside the point. And then you have whatchamacallit. Then they were like, oh, we're just going to get rid of discs altogether. Man, that was just like the tip of the iceberg, because shortly after that, they were like, oh, also PS3 and PS Vita stores are closing. Also one more thing. We're also just going to jam our foot a little more down our throat here. By the way, those movies that you may or may not have bought? Well, the license for those are ending. And guess what, buddy? You are going to get those yanked from your library. Imagine if I just went into your home, right, and I said, hey, I was a Sony executive, and I just kicked down the door, stole your disc, and then just, was like, okay, cool, yeah, thanks. I just left, right? Like, that's essentially what they're doing on a digital storefront. And you have things like the Stop Killing Games movement, which I made a funny video on a while back. It was very inspired by the passion of some people. And, I want to make a comedy skit about it, but it doesn't stop there, because the CEO of Sony, or one of the executives, I can't remember which, decided to sell all of his shares after the announcement shortly, and I'm just like, oh gosh, he even sees the writing on the wall. That's terrible. And then just to put the cherry on top of your knee after the foot is firmly planted in their throat, and 3 shovels were handed to them because they kept digging the hole. Their network went down again after, how many times has PlayStation Network been really hacked? Think about it that way. Their network has been hacked so many times to a point where I lost track. I remember we're watching, I don't know if anyone remembers Review Tech USA. I don't know what happened to him. I heard he had a big mental crash out and, all that other stuff. And, I really hope Jesus is with him on that one, because, I feel you, man. I've had my own crash outs, you know, as of recently, you know. But anyway, I used to watch videos all the time, and like over and over again, like they would be hacked. Like the only one who hasn't been hacked is like Nintendo, and if so, it's been very rare. Like I remember the Giga Leak of like 2020, and I was like, okay, you know, that kind of makes sense. 2020, you know. But it's like, why? Like they've been proven time and time again to be very unreliable, not only holding our information but also their consumers. Like at this point, like I'm so sick of Sony to a point where it's like I realize like a lot of the games I have on my PlayStation I could have gotten on Steam, and it's made me debate like replaying all of my games, just doing it on Steam, because at least on Steam I feel like I own a lot of my stuff, you know, and that's very telling. And like on top of that, like download times are faster. They're so much faster. I think it's like maybe I'll just get rid of the games that like I have like, I guess, a disc for, and then just download them on Steam. I'm not sure, right? You know, but then part of me is like, oh, but I like tactile physical media. Why would I get rid of this? And people are just absolutely destroying Sony. And so much so that they actually didn't comment or post in like days because the backlash was so bad. You know, and it's so funny because companies, people get canceled, but companies don't, you know. And I mean, like, even then, it's like, some people don't get canceled, you know, like JonTron or PewDiePie. Like, they said one bad thing, and, you know, everyone, they're the few, like, troglodytes that will bring up, like, that they, said a bad word one time, but, like, in all honesty, like, they're living the dream, man. You know, they got wife and kids. Anyway, point in case I'm trying to make is, you can't cancel in this day and age. I feel like it's just kind of moot at this point, unless you do something abhorrent, like, you know, like go to an island or something. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's it's just dumb. And I think it's gotten to a point with companies where they're throwing all their chips in because they see the writing on the wall. They see the economic crash. They see, you know, the world and what state it's in. They're like, you know what? It's fine. We're going to remove as many resources as possible, and then we're just going to bend over our consumers more so than we already were. Especially with, like, the SSD stuff. Keep that in mind. Like, Sony, like, I think the PlayStation 5 at launch had, like, 500 gigs, but, like, imagine, like, each Sony game is like roughly around 80 to 100 gigs. I remember when Black Ops 4 was like 100 something gigs, and I was like, I don't want that. And then a buddy of my time, he's like, listen, what if I just bought you the game? Would you then buy it? I was like, I'm not, like, I don't want it on my console. You know, he's like, but what if I get you the $100+ deluxe edition? I was like, fine. You know, because like in the back of my mind, I was like, I could just delete it, and he's only going to play it for like 5 minutes. And I can't believe he actually did buy me like the whole digital like deluxe edition of Black Ops 4. It wasn't good. I didn't like Black Ops 4. You know, I'm a Black Ops 2 kind of guy. And even then, like, Black Ops 2, why is that so stupid expensive? That was supposed to be a W for Sony, you know. I mean, at least we kept the emblem editor, you know, and I'm seeing the funny stuff there, and, you know, like, I'm seeing people scream at each other and saying disgusting things that HR wouldn't like, and, you know, I'm like, hey, gaming's back. I love that, you know. I grew up on uncensored lobbies, and, you know, I'll never forget the time, you know, when I was playing on my 360, and this one girl, she was like, you know, I'm gonna get with your dad and give him a child he'll actually love. And I was like, newsflash for you, sweetie, I have lesbian parents. And, you know, you had like two other people. We were playing on Buried. It's my favorite map. And you had the two other guys in the background going, oh, you know, like it was great. Gaming just isn't what it used to be. And now I feel like I'm going to sift through all my games and just see what can I get on PC at this point, because at least I own my PC for now. I know Amazon's thinking of like doing some rental bull crap, which, by the way, how many people do you think are actually going to buy into that? Like, I know there's a lot of stupid people on this planet, but how many people are going to be like, oh, we owned computers once, now we're not? Maybe that's why like the technology halt is like a huge thing. You ever notice how like technology only upgrades very incrementally? Like, you know, like graphics cards, like the 5080, the 5090, and then it's like, okay, now we get to the 6000 series, but wait, we stopped at the 6000 series because well, the RAM shortage, but like, you know what I mean? We used to have like the 1080, the 1080 Ti, the 1080 Ti, like, I don't know, whatever they wanted to add to the end of that. The 1080 is probably the best graphics card, but nowadays companies don't even want you cracking into a computer. Sony made the PlayStation 5 easy to go in and like move and place the SSD, which I don't know why, because like I just don't know why. Like, to me, it's one of those things where it's like, that won't void the warranty. That's great, but SSDs cost so much. I think it was just to be like, here, we're dangling the keys over your head. We know that your console doesn't have enough storage. And I think it's very telling of PlayStation, where I think they're the first ones that they're just going to make the shift. Xbox has their own thing going on right now, and I'll talk about that in a different video. But PlayStation overall has lost the plot. They just keep putting their foot in their mouth, and I would not be surprised. Actually, no, I'm not surprised. If I remember correctly, their stock completely tanked. So I'm done. I'm really done with PlayStation, because you know what? What does PlayStation really have? A few superhero games, and that's really it. Like, I played Spider-Man, I liked it. I played God of War, I liked it. Didn't care much for the sequel. Spider-Man Miles Morales was all right. I didn't care too much for it, It just felt like Spider-Man 2. Ooh, there wasn't enough time. A lot of reused assets, a lot of things, and you know what? I wasn't here for it. And companies will reuse assets from games like Spider-Man Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2 kind of thing. And you know what? They reuse a lot of the animations, the gameplay, the character models and rigs. That's fine for sequels, but like, people want to feel that the whole game is new, and you don't let a lot of time kind of sit between them. And then sometimes you have too much time between certain things, like Doom: The Dark Ages and Revelations, where I was playing Revelations and I did not remember the controls, like, at all. At first, and I was just like, oh, this is completely different from like Eternal, and there was no muscle memory, which is fine. I think that PlayStation, I think they're eventually just going to remove things from Steam as well and have their own like terrible digital storefront, and they might put their stuff on PC just because no one wants to buy their box anymore. That's also another thing that I've been kind of keeping in mind. And honestly, these are all like theories, but PlayStation is really pissing off a lot of people. And as someone who went from Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4, and I thought the PlayStation 4 was fantastic, and then I went to PlayStation 5, and then I like waited for the Series X because I'm like, all right, it's fine. It's like Xbox, it's whatever. I hate it. I actually hate it. This might actually be my like last console generation that isn't Nintendo. And if Xbox makes a like detachable like disk drive that I could just plug into my computer and get the digital license that way for pretty much all of my games, I don't need anything else. I don't think people understand, like, if Xbox does that and they do like the thing that there's rumors for, PlayStation is going to be eating a lot of dirt. And that is pretty funny. So PlayStation, dude, I feel like you did lose a customer, not by choice. It's just like all my games, like I'm looking at all my PlayStation games. It's like, well, I own these, and it's like, okay, the PlayStation 4 and 5 emulators are coming pretty well, and I could just rip the disc, and put it on my PC, and then I still own it, by the way. I'm just making a copy of something I already own. And that is still legal under the United States right now, hopefully. It's just, hopefully it doesn't go down south. I think that's what I really want to say. But yeah, in any case, guys, send this to a person who needs to do some more cardio or push-ups. Send this to someone with either no upper body or no lower body strength. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, no, this whole digital future kind of sucks. I actually hate it. Okay, bye.